Hi, hey Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Okay, first let me start with a disclaimer. No TVs were injured or killed in the making of this video. Now, I can tell you, I had to talk about my Moxon Vise one more time. I made a couple of quick improvements. This won't take long, and I think it'll be worth your while that if you decide you want to make one of your own or something along the same idea, there's a lot of good ideas here of how you can do it, including these new improvements. So this won't take very long. Anyway, so now what I did was I noticed first off that when I was using it, after I first got done with it, in my last video you saw when I thought that I had these handles all fixed up and everything. But what I found is that when I gave it a good spin, a lot of times it would vibrate and flutter on the threads rather than coming off smoothly like you see here. And that was because it needed more weight on the outside edge to compensate for any vibration that you might get out of this. And so what I ended up doing in order to stop that and to help it was I just had some wooden balls. These are 1 3/4 in diameter, and I just drilled them and stuck them on the ends, glued them on, and then I took and I put it on here. But that created a new problem. So what happened is that once it was on there and I put my pieces back in, if you remember, they were only a tight fit in there. And so now when I spun it the first time, one of these things shot off and went across the room about 20-25 feet away like a rocket. And I was never in any danger, but quite honestly, if it had gone the other direction, it might have been a real tragedy. Then the Moxon Vise would have been a very expensive vise. Anyway, it's one of those things. I'm glad it didn't happen, but you have to think about these things. So anyway, with that in mind, that created a new problem, I realized, by putting those wood balls on there for the extra stability. And so what I had to do is I took some 1/4 inch 20 TPI set screws, the little short ones, and I drilled a hole and tapped them, and I use those now to hold these on there. So if I got to take one off, I can still take it off because they're on the outside here, so I can easily expose it. If I stop here, if I don't have the clearance here, I can remove it if I have to. So anyway, so this has worked out real well. The other improvement I had to make, I found, was that when I tightened it down, if it stopped here, you really couldn't push it any further. You might damage something if you tried. So what I realized that if I take, and I had some of this remnant pieces of this hard rubber, it's put on commercial floors to help you when you fall, like around kid playing areas and exercise rooms, things like that. And there were some remnants at a construction site, so I snarfed it up out of the dumpster, and I use it around here for different things. But I took some of that and I made a couple of little washers to go on there. And that gives me a little more cushion when this tightens down. And it gives me a little more flexibility now when I tighten it down. I can always go that little extra against that rubber washer. But this stuff is really very resistant to friction. And so in order to overcome that, I also made these little washers, which is just out of a milk carton. HDPE, and I just put that on there. So between those two being on there, now when I put my knob on there and I tighten it up all the way, that kind of crushes in there, and I can always go that little extra if I have to without worrying about damaging my vise or the piece that I have locked in there. So having the little washers on there has really helped. And when I'm undoing it, it really is a lot smoother to release it than it was before. So having these washers has been the other great improvement I made on it. So very happy now. This thing just so smooth operating. And I would put this up against any commercial Moxon Vise hardware kit that's out there as far as the quality of what this is and how it works. So, and the beauty of this is, unlike most of those, I can still take this apart. If you looked at my last video, you saw me put it on my mini vise. It takes about 2 minutes to put it on and take it off. So not only is it there when I need it, but I can take it out of my way if I just want to use the bench and I don't need the vise. So, and that's something you don't see in most Moxon Vise. Usually they're mounted unless they clamp to the top, they always would be in your way if you mounted it directly here. I actually get the best of all of it. So I'm very happy with the way this came out. The only other improvement I want to make to it is I'm going to take this same rubber and I'm actually going to put it on the face of my jaw for protection for my piece. And the reason I want to do that, quite simply, is that it gives me a good firm surface with very little friction. I think it'll work as good, if not better, than leather will. So we're going to try it outside the box. So we have to think about things, and I think maybe since I had that, we'll give that stuff a try and see how it is as a good replacement for a leather liner on your vise. So I think that's about it. I'm really happy with it. The price is just right, and it's removable. So I think it's the best of all worlds. If you like this video, please say so. If you have any ideas or suggestions about doing it a little better, leave them in the comments. I would love to read them. Most importantly, though, please come back again because it's nowhere near done. And if you learned something here, don't be afraid to like the video. Thanks for stopping by, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon.